Hello, thanks for joining the webinar today. My name is Spencer Pope. I am a WorkMax regional sales representative, and I can help you with any additional questions you might have if they're not addressed in this webinar. But as you do have questions during this webinar, please type those questions either into the question area or the chat area for this webinar, and I'll be able to make sure that I review those and answer those at the end of the webinar. Today, we're going to be discussing using advanced technology for superior labor tracking. So first, I want to address how it's historically been done. So historically, most organizations have captured their employee time on things like paper that might be entered by supervisors. It might be self-reported where you have each individual employee reporting their time. Paper is most common where you have an employee timesheet. Again, that could be filled out by either a supervisor or the individual employee. Frequently, I hear about organizations having their employees email that information in. That could be in a spreadsheet or just in a traditional email. Some of them will have that data texted in. So they'll text it into the office. I once had an employee who that's frequently how I received their hours, is they would just text them to me so that I could process payroll. I've also had other organizations that had guys write their hours down on napkins and turn that in or take a photo of that as well. So traditionally, there's lots of issues and challenges that we run into with how labor and time has been tracked up to this point, and it's really how most organizations have tracked time almost since the beginning of when they started. So what are some of those challenges with the labor tracking as we're running into it? So the data is not accurate. So that could be for a number of different reasons, but you're receiving normal time that might say, my guy worked from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's pretty traditional is for a lot of organizations to have people entering the time to just say 8 to 5. I once had an employee myself who hadn't turned their time in and I really needed to process payroll. So I sent them a text and I said, hey, can you please submit your time or I won't be able to get it as part of this particular payroll. They texted me back quickly and they gave me the hours 8 to 5 every single day for the previous week. And it's crazy because in that interaction, I texted them back and I said, hey, if I remember correctly, you took 3.5 days off last week. And their response to me was, oh, you're right. Actually, I forgot. So inaccurate time, that can be for a number of reasons. It can be because of bad memories. It can be time theft, where they're stealing time, but it's not intentional. It can be intentional time theft, where they may know that they started at 10, but they wrote down, hey, I started at 8. Or it could be a foreman working together, maybe they're friends with one of their employees, and they're just say, hey, you know, they work hard, I'm just gonna give them a couple extra hours. But getting accurate time is a big issue. Also, there's not a lot of checks and balances when you have an employee filling out a timesheet, or even there's a few more when you have a foreman reviewing that time, or if you have the foreman entering that time, but still not enough checks and balances. Oftentimes you can run into problems with labor compliance. Maybe those are state-based laws that you have to deal with for labor compliance, or maybe other regulations with unions, so on and so forth. But it makes it really challenging to make sure you're in compliance. In terms of time theft, one of the things I wanted to add on here were potential issues with things like buddy punching. Organizations that even move from a timesheet into something like a time clock run into issues where they might have one employee clocking in for one of their friends. Hey, I'm running late. Can you please clock me in so I can be on the clock? And that is an issue in a high percentage of organizations that just use time clocks. Okay, so what are the solutions? What do we need to fix here? In terms of what we need to fix and check on, first is we need the time to be accurate. So if the employee worked from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., we need that time to show 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, we need it to come back to the office in a timely manner. So it's easy for us to process when we need to check on it ahead of time. So everything is pre-prepared for payroll and we have that information and data for job costing purposes. So getting that data from the employees, if they're submitting time cards on a weekly basis, and let's say they work Monday through Friday and they have to have their time cards submitted by, Monday morning of the next week, we're already, from those hours they worked on Monday, the previous week, we're already an entire week past that time when they're submitting it. So for those 7 days, we have no idea what's happening and what work they completed. So we want that data to come back timely and ultimately, or maybe best, if we were to get that time to come back immediately as they're submitting it. Another is labor compliance. We want to make sure that we're in compliance with specific labor laws and that we're understanding if our employees are taking the appropriate breaks, lunches, and so on and so forth. So we're in compliance with labor laws. Okay, so how do we resolve these different challenges? So a couple of things that a lot of organizations can use are real-time individual clock in and out. So if you have each individual tracking their own time, you'll know that that data is submitted by the individual. And if they are clocking in and out in real time, that's going to solve a number of challenges. First, the timeliness of the data. If as soon as they clock in, if we see that information in the office, now we know, oh, John is on the job and he's working on job site 1. A couple other things we can do with that individual clock in and out is we can use any sort of biometrics. Okay, one of the big things that organizations tend to lean towards now, organizations used to use a lot of fingerprints, but in construction there was a lot of challenges with using fingerprints. Fingers were dirty, it wasn't reading correctly. So we've moved to advanced facial recognition that uses biometrics, checks all the different points on the face to make sure that that data is accurate and it is the correct person clocking in and out. That will help eliminate things like buddy punching and ghost employees. And then we want to make sure that our employees are on the specific job sites. So we can do that in a number of different ways. We can set up kiosks where it's mounted on the wall of a shop or a job trailer. We can also use GPS location with geofencing set up around those specific jobs. So let's jump in and talk about those a little bit more detail. In terms of real-time clock in and out, there's a number of things that are going to be beneficial here. Again, we're going to get that data immediately as they clock in and out, but we may also want to capture additional data than just having a real-time time punch. So if we know they clocked in at 8, we might also want to know, well, what job were they working on? In addition to also what job they were working on, we might want to know what activity or cost code they were working on so we can use this data for both payroll and for job costing purposes. And if you are an organization that works with unions or you do a lot of prevailing wage or Davis-Bacon work, you might also need to capture the classification that that employee is working under, whether they're a laborer or an operator or a foreman, so on and so forth. So capturing that data as part of that real-time clock in will help you solve those challenges for both payroll and for job costing purposes. With facial recognition, what we can do is we can take a photo of the employee as they're clocking in and out, compare that to the employee profile photo to make sure that they are the correct person on the job. This helps eliminate everything from buddy punching to ghost employees to make sure that you dissuade and discourage those things from happening in your organization or even completely eliminate them. Also, we can use GPS with geofencing. So with the specific jobs you want your employees to be working on, even if you have a time system where they can clock in and out, and it can take photos to make sure it's the right person on the job, they still have the capability to clock in and out wherever they might be. That could be they wake up and go to the coffee shop and clock in at the coffee shop. They're not physically on the job site. It might be that they roll out of bed in the morning and they're like, oh, I'm running to work, I need to clock in, and they pull up their device and they clock in. With WorkMax system, we are going to take a GPS location stamp when they clock in and out, compare that to the geofence set for that particular job, and if they're outside of that geofence for any reason, we'll flag that record to notify you and let you know, hey, this employee was not on the particular job site when they were clocking in and out. That might be a totally normal and acceptable thing in certain instances. Maybe it was one of your foremen and they were clocking in because they had to go pick up the crew. And they clocked in and out when they were picking up that crew. It might have been they were picking up equipment or even renting equipment that you needed to pick up for that job site, or maybe picking up materials. So there are valid reasons why that might be the case. But we, in this particular case, we can use technology and the modern day technology we have to make sure that those employees are on the particular job site and on the correct job site as they're clocking in and out, and eliminate them rolling out of bed and clocking in, or eliminate them wanting to clock in when they're at the coffee shop or they're not on the particular job site that they need to be on. Okay, again, if you have any questions, specific questions about GPS, facial recognition, using technology to advance the way that you capture time and labor in the field, please enter those into the question areas or in the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer those at the end of this webinar. In addition to being able to capture time, we want to make sure that the data we're capturing helps make sure that we're in compliance. This could be compliance from labor laws, so that we might be tracking, were there any injuries on the job? Were all of the breaks managed correctly, so each employee received their appropriate breaks? Did each employee receive the applicable lunch in the appropriate time frame? This might be things like safety. We need to make sure that we're capturing toolbox talks, that our guys are going through all of these safety meetings, they're reviewing the applicable material, and they're signing off on that. So with the forms available in WorkMax, you can make sure that you're capturing all this data in the field electronically and eliminate the need for all the extra paper. Guys having paper that they're filling out in the field, stuffing in their truck, and ultimately making it back into the office months later, or maybe not at all. Guys being in the field like, oh, we've got to do a toolbox talk, but they realize, oh, we don't have access to the applicable forms or the paper forms that we need to do it. With WorkMax, all of that data will be on the electronic device. That's either a Apple or Android device, cell phone, or tablet. So there's great flexibility on how you can capture the data with the forms in the field. These forms, again, can help capture data, like I said before, toolbox talk, safety, compliance, injuries, incidents. A really big one for a lot of organizations in terms of using technology to make capturing data in the field from their guys way easier is expense forms. This means maybe the guys are heading to Home Depot to purchase materials. They might be even dropping off at the gas station to purchase water or drinks or ice, to make sure that the guys are taken care of, and especially in these hot summers. I know almost every day these days I'm getting a notification on my devices saying, hey, it's going to be exceptionally hot today, so you got to be careful. All of that can be captured electronically on a WorkMax form, and they can take photos of those receipts, and that can automatically be then emailed to the appropriate people, typically accounting, so that that can be processed in the field. Okay, a lot of this can be automated. One of the really neat things about using WorkMax to solve your challenges with time and capturing time appropriately is the ability to attach any of these customizable forms to any of the clock in or clock out processes. So you might want to have the employees clock in and clock out at the end of the day. And when they clock out at the end of the day, you might want to ask specific questions like, were you injured on the job today? Or did you receive your breaks and your lunch in the appropriate time frame? Let me actually jump over really quickly and walk through the process and show you how we could do a simple and easy clock in and out for employees in the field. Again, this could be on a mobile device, a personal device for the employees. It could be on a company device. That could be a tablet or a cell phone mounted on the wall of a shop or a job trailer. Or it might be a device that the foreman or the supervisor has in their hands, and each member of their crew are clocking in and out on that mobile device. So here I'm going to pull up my cell phone and switch my screen over to my cell phone so you can see that. This would be the WorkMax mobile app. You'll see here there is a number pad, and on the number pad, each employee is going to enter their PIN code. That PIN code is going to do a couple of things. First, it's going to be double authentication that they're the correct person using the system, and it allows them to jump between devices. So if they're using a kiosk mode where they're clocking in and out in real time, they may clock in on one kiosk and even clock out on a separate kiosk. Or if the foreman has a device in their hand, it makes it really easy for each member of the team to quickly and easily clock in and out. In this case, I'm going to enter a PIN code. This is for Jorge Nunez. You'll see at the very top the name and the photo for facial recognition. I'm going to select clock in. And as part of that process, you will see here it's going to take my photo. That's going to be for facial recognition so that we can eliminate things like buddy punching and ghost employees. You'll also see it's auto-selecting the default job that's set on this device. If I do need to switch that job because I'm working on a different job, I can then select the job and it will give me those options which I have the permissions to see. You'll see that I have set up this WorkMax mobile device to automatically sort by those particular jobs that are closest to me via GPS. So you see at the very top, Lion's Den Storage is the closest one. And then it's going to give me an option to select the applicable cost codes or activities. Here, I'll be able to select those cost codes or activities. And then if this was a prevailing wage or a Davis-Bacon job, I could then select the applicable classification that I was working under as well. I can also enter in any specific notes. I can either type those or use talk to text, and then I can hit confirm to complete my clock in. One of the really neat things about WorkMax, in addition to the easiness on how you use it on the mobile device, is how easy it is to switch between jobs and cost codes. So if I needed to switch between a job or a cost code, with WorkMax, you just clock in again. I'll again put in my PIN code here. I'll hit clock in. I can select whatever job or cost code. I'm still on Lion's Den Storage. Here at the bottom, I'll adjust my cost code or activity, and then I can confirm and complete my clock in. So that process is super simple and easy to use. And in addition to that being easy to use in the field, it's still really powerful in the office. We talked earlier about the timeliness of the data and how important it is for us to be able to capture this data in a timely manner. So as those employees clock in and out, that data will go back immediately into WorkMax's system, and you'll be able to review that data as it goes back into the system through any modern web browser. The other piece I wanted to touch on is using those WorkMax forms. As I clock out here, you will see it's asking me to fill out a basic clock out form. As I do that, I can answer simple questions like, did you take your required breaks today? Were you injured on the job today? One of the really neat things here about these questions is because I said, yes, I was injured on the job today, and I hit save, now it's going to allow me to launch a full injury report where I can do things like take photos, answer multiple choice questions, even type or use talk to text to put a summary of what happened, answer yes or no questions, and then capture one or even multiple levels of signature as part of that process. With WorkMax, you do have an optional time review where I can review the time that I worked and sign off on that as well as part of the clock out process. So easy to take advantage of technology to make sure we're capturing the appropriate data from the field surrounding time for both payroll and job costing purposes, as well as anything additional from compliance to safety to expense forms, so on and so forth. Okay, let me jump back and touch briefly on the WorkMax forms in that they are custom. These can be customized to meet your specific needs in any way that you need. It can be changing the questions. It can be entering areas where you can now take photos in the field. It's really common to use the WorkMax forms to do daily reports, as well as capturing any additional information that you might need. Okay, any questions that haven't already been entered in the chat box? If you do have questions, please enter them into either our question area or the chat area of that box, and I will get to those it kind of in the order that they came in. Okay, so the first question is, where does the information go after it's collected on the mobile device in the field? So I can show you that here. WorkMax is both web-based and cloud-based. So that data is going to immediately go back into WorkMax's system, and let me share that screen here, which you'll access through any modern web browser. As I come into WorkMax, one of the things I didn't really touch on is the beauty and the ability for WorkMax to integrate with different systems. So we are able to integrate with your different accounting systems to pull in things like employees, jobs, and cost codes automatically into WorkMax. And I can go into that in additional detail with any of you that might want to talk about the details of your specific accounting system, but we work with hundreds of different accounting and payroll systems, and so we can help you with that. But all of our time data is going to flow back into the WorkMax time editor, where we'll easily be able to review that time based on a specific time period. So I can easily select, in this case, I'm going to select about a week worth of time, and I can review all of that data as it comes back in, including I have the ability to filter it by employees, by departments, groups, jobs, cost codes. So if I do need to see specific time, I can see that as well. One other really neat thing I love about this is the ability to filter this by the tags. So if I need to see anybody who had a failed facial recognition where they clocked in and their facial recognition wasn't a match, I can easily filter it so the software does the work for us. So here I might want to review Sam's facial recognition. And as I do so, I can easily see by looking here, hey, both these eyes are bald, but one of these guys doesn't look like the other guy, right? Unless you squint, and if you squint tightly enough, you'll probably see that their muscles are roughly the same size. Makes it really easy to know, hey, I want to make sure that my right guy is on the job. In addition to that, we talked about using GPS and geofencing. I might want to come in here and see, show me any GPS discrepancies. Again, I'm going to look at Sam here. And as I go in and review his GPS map, I'm going to easily see the clock in and out happened right here by Mapleton. But as I look for the job site geofence was way down here by Payson. That's about 30 minutes away in a truck. So as I zoom in here and I zoom all the way in, I can say, hey, where was Sam when he was clocking in out? Oh, he was at his house. So it's easy to have that information and make sure that your employees are on the job and that the right employee is working. Thanks for that question. Okay, any other questions before we wrap up this webinar? Okay, I want to thank you all for joining today. If you have any additional questions or want to have a specific demo that will show you how this works specific to your environment with your specific accounting systems or payroll systems, be happy to set that up for you. And also feel free also to check out any of our other educational series as well, and to look at any of our other software products, anything from our accounting software with Foundation to our estimating software with the various different options we have there. Really appreciate you for jumping on. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your day, and I guess we're finished here. So thank you so much.